Welcome to Murder.
And everything else.
My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl. And Joy and I are two old friends chit-chatting about murder and, you guessed it, everything else.
Yay!
Yay!
This week we're headed in the direction of everything else, and we're going to give you all a break from murder.
Yay! I guess. Yay!
So let's roll into our highs and lows.
Okay, well, yes, I'll go first, but I have to put out the disclaimer about this podcast not being for children because we do curse, like Joy said. We like to say fuck and shit a lot, and I might even use my favorite motherfucker because my low, I'm about to go into it right now. It happened like 10 minutes before we started recording, and I was so upset that I couldn't eat my baked potato that I had warmed up. I warmed it up so it would get in the microwave so it would get warm in the middle, and then I even used the air fryer after so it was all crispy outside and it has cheddar. It's a baked stuffed baked potato. And then I see an alert on my phone for a charge from Amazon, and I have set my credit card so that if there's anything over $1 charge, if I could have made it lower, I would have. But $1 charge, I get a notification. So I look it up, and it's on an item that I've already returned and already received a refund on. Okay. Now, things happen. I get it. But this is the reason why I'm so pissed off, because this happened last week, 2 days in a row for 2 different items that I've returned, and I've already been refunded. And, the thing is, if you're not watching it, you could so easily just, overlook it. But I'm looking at every charge that comes through. And then I'm like, I didn't buy anything on Amazon, not today anyway. And I go and I look at what the charge is for, and it's something that I've returned and I've already been refunded. So I don't like to call because I don't want to hear any sassy responses. It just pisses me off when people on the phone are flippant, or they could give a shit. So I always chat, and they're really good about chatting. However, today I tried a different approach, Joy. You know how people you pick up the phone. We've done customer service, right? So they're like, I've been charged again, and I can't believe you guys have done this again, right? Usually. So I started my chat. He was like, hi, I won't mention his name. And then, not that anyone would know who he is. And I said, hi, so-and-so. I'm really sad.
Oh no.
And I was kind of like, just even though I was mad, I was kind of chuckling because I'm like, I bet they never got that before.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because usually complaint department, they just get people whose veins are popping out and they're just screaming at the top of their lungs. And so I'm going to try a different approach, because I'm sure if I was in front of someone and I was crying, they would probably take pity on me. Right. So that was my game plan. So I'm very sad. And he goes, oh no, what is it? And then I explain. I'm like, I have been charged now for the 3rd time in a week. And I asked the last person I chatted with to please escalate it. There's some kind of glitch that's happening. And I said, I know you're really great about refunding. I know that, but I am wasting my time and yours by continually having to contact you about something you've received. Oh, so sorry. You've already received, not only received, you already refunded me for it. And so I'm like, please, I'm just begging, just pleading with him, like trying to, reach his, any empathy he has. I'm like, can you please escalate this? And he goes, well, yeah, it's the fulfillment department's responsibility for blah, blah, blah. And I was like, can you please... Please. If I could have put a begging emoji, I would have put it in there. But I was like, can you please escalate it to whoever is in charge of that department or whomever can take care of it. Please. I do not. And I know it's going to happen again. And it's so frustrating because you have no recourse other than to go through the motions, you know, of contacting them and saying, okay, you've already received this, I've been refunded. So that's my low because I know it's going to happen again. And it's very frustrating. And I tried to play on his, like, I tried to play on the, I order a lot from Amazon. Okay.
You're like, I am your best customer
I
in
am.
town.
Yeah, if you could have different levels of your, customers, I would be in the VIP level. Okay. So, oh my God, but Joy, I was so mad. That feeling that comes up in your stomach, I was so mad and my hands were shaking. Couldn't eat my baked potato, which is just made me even madder.
Oh no. You know what though? And it's funny that you should mention that. So this has never happened to me. And uh do you think it's a glitch or do you think maybe somebody stole your number and is ordering stuff?
No, no, no. Because what you do is when I see the charge for X amount, I go to my Amazon account, you go to your payments, and then you look at transactions. And then because for that amount, for that exact amount, I look at it. Well, and it's going to be the one at the top because it just happened. So I click on it and it takes me back to an item that I returned. So that's what's happening. No one else is ordering it.
So it's
Although,
like you're caught in this weird like warp where
okay.
they want to recharge you for something that you return
And,
instead of giving you the money back, they want to take the money back.
yeah, they've already refunded me.
So
So I always
we
Kohl's. I always go to Kohl's to return my stuff, and 90% of the things that I return, like 2 to 3 hours later, I already see the refund. But I don't know what's happening, but it's charging me for something received because when I go look at it, it says, yes, we've received this. Thank you. So,
maybe
and
you
they've,
should try returning your stuff to the UPS drop off.
yeah, maybe somewhere else. I
Because
haven't.
I have never had that happen. And I'll tell you something else. My refunds are instantaneous as soon as I drop off my item.
I think I'm going to try that because
Within
it's.
literally minutes. Like not when you said 3 hours, I was like, damn, that's a long time.
Oh, really? I thought that was good. It wasn't. It wasn't like they have to wait till they receive it and da da da.
I,
It's like,
in all fairness, I only return maybe one thing every month. So I don't return a whole lot of things, but also, in all fairness, I don't buy that much stuff from Amazon.
okay.
I
Well,
try
there
to
was a.
buy stuff from other places, but I like at Christmas, I probably returned 3 things in the month, maybe four, because it's Christmas month, right? But
Well, I was buying a lot during Christmas, and when I had to return several things, like 4 or 5, sometimes 6 things, and I would wait till if I knew something was coming in the mail, I go, okay, let me see it first because if I want to return it, I'll just put it together. I'd want to make the least amount of trips to
right.
return.
Well, I
Um,
also happen to know a lady whose name shall remain nameless, who
whose name-
who orders an obscene amount of stuff on Amazon and returns an obscene amount of stuff to all over the place, I imagine, on the planet. And I've also never heard this story from her, so I feel like maybe it has something to
it's
do with
Kohl's.
coal.
Okay, we're not bad mouthing Kohl's. We don't want to be sued,
Yeah, if
but
you're owner of Kohl's, hey, no hate. I've only been in your store once, so but I'm just saying, like,
no,
I'm
it
in
can't. It
business now.
can't be them though because they do their part. Because I will get the refund.
Yeah,
It's when it leaves them. It's the freaking fulfillment center. That's what the guy said on the chat. He was like, it's their thing.
yeah.
I don't know what the fuck, but I'm gonna try to go to UPS or something else. But it's
Yeah, I've
just
never had
annoying
that
because,
happen with the UPS drop off. And
huh?
I've never
Yeah.
had that happen with UPS drop off. And just so you know, I have one that's like 7 miles away and another one that's like maybe 8 miles away in another direction. So I have to time it strategically if I'm going in that direction because it's not convenient.
Well, I have one that's really close, so maybe I'll try it. But I don't think it's them. And
Hmm.
it's not like it happens all the time. I mean, I have had it happen in the past, but
But it
it's like,
happens like a bunch this week, right?
yeah. So before it's been like one off here and there. And then when had that one, I was like, okay, this has happened before. And I contacted them. Then when I got another one the next day, I was like, oh shit, is this going to be like is something happening? And then now, anyway, that's
Oh,
my low. I can hear a round of applause from the listeners that it wasn't about how I haven't been getting sleep, that I've moved on. I think they're so
or
happy that,
breastfeeding for dogs.
well, okay. I had a different low, but this one like took the precedence because it just happened. But my high is going to be about it's going to be about a dog because it's so cute and it made me so happy, and I shared it with people at work and they were like, "Oh my god." I mean, it just made me so happy. So Bodhi, I have to just give me a moment to just tell everybody. Bodhi is a white husky with these icy blue eyes. They almost look white. He's beautiful. He was lying outside one of the places where I work. The temperature was in the triple digits. He had a harness on, and he was just lying there. And so I went and got him, and then it turns out that one of his pads on his paws were like it was hanging off because the pavement is so hot. Anyway, I'll try to make this a short story, but I have to give everybody the background because it's heartbreaking. He's beautiful, and he looked like his nails were trimmed and his hair, so he was in the back of the car, and I looked and I was just like, God, somebody's heart is breaking right now, because if Callie and Jet got out, I would just be a mess, so a wreck. So I'm thinking somebody is just, their heart is breaking. So I go to the nearest vet, have him scanned. He's chipped, but it's not registered. So I bring him home, and we keep him overnight. And I have to tell this story. I kept him in the office. I slept on the floor. He slept on the floor, obviously, on the other side, opposite sides of the room. And then at one point during the night, I opened my eyes and I looked at him, and his eyes were closed. He had been sleeping, but he opened his eyes right after I opened mine. He stood up and he walked over to me, and now we're face to face because he's tall enough and I'm on the floor. And he puts his head down and he rubs his face into mine, and then he goes back and lies down. So I come out of the room the next day and I look at Kevin and I'm like, oh, because I'm like, he's already winning me over. But
Guys, what she also forgot to mention was when he put his head down right before he rubbed his face on hers, he goes, excuse me, Mom, might I please have some more?
Well, I make an appointment with my vet. Well, I called around. Okay. In fair, everyone, I posted him everywhere, next door, um, um, pet finder, whatever, all of them. Okay. And no response.
Grinder, all of them.
Yes. I make an appointment with my vet. Now, let me tell you where I found him was in another city from where I live. And the vet I go to is in the city that I live in. Okay, so I found him in a completely different city. I make an appointment at the vet to have him checked out because he was limping and his pad was, really damaged. And I leave him there because they said they want to examine him. So I dropped him off. And the doctor calls me and says, we found the owner. Now, the chip wasn't registered. And I'm like, how did you find them? They didn't register the chip. And she says, he was chipped here. Okay, which is, do you know how many vets are here in this area? I mean, it was unbelievable that I found him in another city and the owner just happened to go to the same vet. And she said, yeah, we were able to, with the microchip number, find the box that the chip came from, drill down and see, look for a white husky, and they're not common. So they found the owner. He had been rehomed. Anyway, the owner that had him when he was out on the street in the 114-degree weather didn't want him back. they claimed that he bit someone, and he was rehomed from the first owner because he bit a child. But you and I talked about that, and with children, it's very iffy because they could have pulled their tail, could have bent down while they were eating, which get close to their bowl, which is what my niece did, and she got her lip ripped open. Anyway, he didn't want him back, and that broke my heart because I'm like, you know what, you mofo, even if you don't want the dog, like, why didn't you rehome him or like drop him off at a shelter? But to leave him in that heat, or not come and look for him, or when someone says we found him, not take rehome him, it was okay. So fast forward,
Yeah.
what is it? July, we found him July 7th. I know the exact date. August, September, October. 8 months later, Kevin, my husband, has taken him everywhere to socialize him and all of that. One of the places he frequents is Lowe's. And the people there know Bodhi now. They love him. Everywhere he goes, he is loved because he is such a sweet dog. I even bought him a Lowe's shirt. They have a dog shirt. They have a Lowe's dog shirt. So I bought him one, and I have a picture of him in Lowe's with Kevin. And they were like, oh, yeah, we have dog classes coming through here all the time. You'll even see other dogs being walked in there. So sorry for the long story, but I had to give you all a background on what happened to him and how people didn't want him. So Kevin took him to Lowe's the other day, and he was standing. Well, he saw another dog, so he like diverted Bodhi because Bodhi reacts to other dogs. So he said he's standing in the lumber area, and he hears over the PA, Bodhi the dog to customer service. Bodhi the dog to customer service, because they know him there. So Kevin took him over there, and the manager, this girl, she was like crouching down, and Kevin let Bodhi's leash go, and he ran over to her. Oh my God, it was so
Oh,
sweet.
story. Although
Yeah.
I'd be keeping an eye on my husband because that might be a way for her to like have something with your husband while she's pretending to pet your dog.
Maybe, but it's okay. I mean, everybody, it's okay. I no, it's just
She can
every
pet your husband too.
no, it's just that he turned into from this dog that didn't, the owner didn't want him, a dog that was thrown away, to a dog that everybody loves.
Yeah.
So that's my high. I'm sorry, I went on for a long time. Okay, what's your low and high?
That's a really good high.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
let me start with my low because I got sick. Took my youngest child to a volleyball tournament last weekend. Full disclosure, my husband the weekend before was in San Francisco. He came home. He got sick right after he came home. He's been sick what feels like for 4 or 5 months with a lingering cough, and it always rolls into something else, and the cough never gets better.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, I feel like he's been sick 3 or 4 times in a row, like spaced out, like every kind of 4 to 6 weeks. But because, we're in the middle of flu and cold season, which here, starts in October when kids start school, September, October, and lasts until March or April, until it gets hot. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
blazing hot in May. Or I don't know, June, depends on who you talk to. My family, it's blazing hot from April 1st until November 1st. But if you talk to people here who've lived here their whole lives, they'll tell you, there's nuances to the seasons. It really only is really, really clammy for about 2 weeks in the summer, which I call bullshit on, but whatever. So yeah, he he finally went in and they tested him for, they swab you and they test you for flu, for RSV, for COVID, for everything. I think
Mm-hmm.
they can test you for herpes and for like rectal cancer all at the same time. Or, oh, I heard an Englishman once refer to it as anal cancer. And I thought, oh, it sounds so much nicer.
Sounds classy.
Anal cancer instead of rectal cancer. I was like, rectal, it just sounds so gross. But anyway,
Ass crack cancer.
yeah, right, that's right. So so anyway, I coming back from the tournament, I started feeling a little scratch in my throat. But I had been shouting and whistling, because I'm watching her play games and I'm being like a cheering squad. And sometimes I feel like I'm, have to carry the whole cheering squad. But anyway, on Monday I woke up and for sure, I was like, okay, something's up because that thing where your nose just randomly starts dripping and it itches really crazy and you can't stop it, so you have to walk around with paper stuffed in your nose, so you can't leave the house. And then from
Well,
there,
you could, but
yeah, you
you might
could.
get some looks.
Um, So from there, it turned into a low grade fever and the achiness and the headache. And then, it turned into I can't get out of bed anymore. And, and then when you've got a fever like that, the days all run together and the nights all run together. And you wake up intermittently and you sometimes stumble out of the bedroom to get like water or to look at the pantry because everything tastes the same because, your nose is stuffy, so you can't actually distinguish between, the taste of a potato and the taste of a banana. It all just like tastes the same. So I did that, and then I went to urgent care, got some antibiotic. I got a cough suppressant. But listen to this, and this is I'm going to call this the high. The high is that I'm feeling better. I'm on the mend. But the other high is you don't have to drink that disgusting syrup anymore that they used to have to force down your throat as a child. Remember, it would burn your throat.
You'd hold it, your mom would hold your nose.
It would make you feel like you were going to throw up. So, how do you keep the cough syrup down when you're already throwing up? Anyway, they now give you these little pills and they last for 6 hours.
Oh, nice.
Gel cap things like those omega-3 pills, the fish oil ones.
Mm-hmm.
Really tiny, so they're easy to swallow and they last for 6 hours. And I literally have not even had like a scratchy throat. When how you get that dry throat feeling where you have to like suck on a lozenge, otherwise you're going to
Yeah.
be able to stop coughing. I've had none of that. So
Wow.
I don't know, like I'm going to hide them because once people find out about these, the people in my house, there won't be any left. So I'm going to hide them somewhere so that they become like my little cough medicine stash. And
So when the world catches on and they run out of inventory, like we ran out of toilet paper during the pandemic, you will have a stash.
I'll have a stash of like little jelly pills that you take to not cough. So yeah, I'm still here. I don't have COVID. I
Yay.
don't have RSV. I don't have the flu. Apparently, it was an upper respiratory infection of some sort. And yeah, a shout out to that guy who came up with penicillin. I don't know what his name is, but
Mr. Penicillin.
yeah, it was probably a woman, and he just took the patent and ran to the patent office. But anyway, um, I'm sure his name wasn't his name like Jonas Salk or something, or like I don't know what was his name.
I don't know.
Well, I studied all that stuff once upon a time, but it's been a long time. So, you know what? Don't come for me on the Jonas Salk comment. Maybe he was the polio guy. Um, so anyhow, those are my highs and lows. Mine are not as exciting as yours, but
Well,
that's
I'm glad you feel better.
yeah, that's why my voice might sound a little bit weird.
Okay. Yeah. Just so everybody knows so they don't write in and say Joy's voice sounded weird.
Exactly. Although to date nobody's written in, so that's kind of exciting. I don't know if that means everybody really likes
Or
what they're
does it?
hearing, or they just hit play and then they leave the room. Because I
Yeah.
imagine people could do that as well.
Yes, this is true.
I will say that today I got a chance to hang out with Maria, who comes every 2 weeks, and
Oh boy.
today was especially exciting for Maria because I was a captive audience, or maybe she was a captive audience because no one was home and I was sick, so I was stuck at home, and I literally followed her from room to room. I mean,
Even though you weren't feeling well?
Yeah, but you feel
That's
if you don't
that's
feel,
dedication.
yeah, if you're not feeling well, you're gonna feel a lot better just talking to somebody. So I would pretend I was doing stuff like putting pillowcases and folding laundry and stuff like that. So I was helping, but
Oh my god. And she's looking over her shoulder like, God, I wish she would go away.
yeah, I know. And I realized the other thing is I don't speak Spanish as well when I'm sick.
Oh.
It's like my brain all of a sudden like drops every third word.
Well, that would make sense. Your brain is foggy when you're sick, you
Yeah,
know?
I was legitimately making words up. But she did say, because I asked her if she listened to my podcast, and she said she started listening to the fourth episode. Like, she said that
Wait, she started with the fourth or she's gotten to the fourth?
she started with the fourth, I
Oh
guess.
shit, I got all
Yeah,
excited.
I know, but she said that I sounded really fancy on the recording.
Oh,
I got my first fancy, so that's good.
there you go.
Yeah. Um,
Nice.
anyway, speaking of
Fancy.
fancy, I have to give our shout outs.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Three new paid monthly subscribers, and they are Susan, Gabe,
Yay!
and woohoo!
What? Woohoo!
And I'm not even going to go into the dedication that it takes for Gabe and Kevin to become two of our subscribers. But just so you guys know, they may be married to us. So that's pretty exciting. But you know what? Susan is not.
That's right.
It's even more exciting.
That
So,
is
guys,
very exciting. Thank you. Woohoo.
like we said earlier, we are heading in a different direction this week. And we are going to, well, actually, I'm going to talk about um, something that might be of interest to some people um, and that might be relevant. Uh, it's about where I'm going to be talking about type 2 diabetes, weight loss, and Ozempic, which is a relatively new medicine that's on the market. It's a semaglutide, and it was designed for um, the treatment of type 2 diabetes. So, unless you have anything else you want to like jump into, Cheryl, just let me
No,
know. But
take
I'm
it
in.
away.
Okay, awesome. So, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes approximately 8 years ago. It was about 2 years after we moved to North Carolina. Um, just a little bit of like pre history. I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes with my third pregnancy, but my second um, pregnancy that I carried to full term. Sorry, my second child that I carried to full term. And so I was diagnosed around when I was 6 months pregnant. And I went straight into giving myself injections in the stomach 4 times a day of insulin.
Wow.
And then a month before my child was born, for some reason, my insulin levels leveled off and I was able to stop giving myself injections,
Ooh.
which I thought was so strange because, you know, it was like everything was working well. Then your body stops in doing something. Then you get help your body along. And then all of a sudden it starts working well again. So it was very confusing. But they did tell me after she was born that I would have to be more cautious because the chances of being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes went up because I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes.
Mhm.
So I had that on my radar, and also my sister had gestational diabetes, I believe, with both her pregnancies, and she was also diagnosed with type 2 diabetes within, I want to say, at least 10 years or less than 10 years after having her second child. So I was I was more than 10 years past my second child, and I felt like, I was good. I was not in any risk, but as I would when I would go in for my checkups, the doctors would say, your blood sugar is getting a little bit high. You're going to need to just be cautious and manage, your diet. And having had gestational diabetes, I knew what that looked like. But I can honestly say, as a human being on this planet, that I wasn't very careful. I didn't
Mm.
like count how much carbohydrates I was eating or how much sugar I was consuming. I didn't manage like portion control, etc. So then approximately 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Did you
So,
think did you just think that the chances were low, or you just threw caution to the wind, or what do you think?
I mean, I think so even a little more history in my 20s and 30s, early to mid 30s, I had a history of disordered eating and I had struggled with an eating disorder in during different periods of that time. And so for me, when I restrict myself, I tend to be an all or nothing person. It's
Mhm.
funny, I always thought that I was not very type A person, but as I got older, I discovered things about myself. Like, for example, when I went back to school, I discovered that I was very much a perfectionist. So I wasn't willing to get any grades that were not below an A, which was not how I was when I was in school. Um, and then I also struggle with that so when we moved here, I lost a lot of weight and I was very strict with eating and I exercised regularly. But then equally, when I would stop doing that, I would become like the complete opposite of that. So I was never like able to maintain that. Because again, when you do something that strict, generally it's really hard to maintain that for the rest of your life. That's why
Yeah.
a lot of people say diets don't work because if you're constantly counting and I can't eat this or I'm replacing this, it's like it just turns into a full time job. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So I didn't always throw caution to the wind, but I didn't always make the best choices. But one thing I did do before we moved here was I quit drinking alcohol. And alcohol has a lot of sugar. So I
Mhm.
think I felt like because I had also struggled with binge drinking, I guess I felt like, well, at least I'm not pumping all that sugar into my system.
At least I'm
So,
not drinking.
yeah, so I'm good. Check that box. I can have all those Girl Scout cookies because think about all those cocktails I'm saying no to
Exactly.
this glass of red wine. But anyway, that's not how it works, folks. You got that information here first. So, people who don't know the symptoms that I was dealing with type 2 diabetes was dry mouth, constant and frequent urination. We're talking about waking up at night repeatedly, more than 3 times, sometimes 5 times,
Mm.
stopping every 20 to 45 minutes on a road trip to go to the bathroom, extreme hunger. So instead of being hungry, like, oh, I'm going to eat these few grapes because I'm, a little hungry, or I'm going to have some carrot sticks, you go from being like fine to, if I don't eat this shepherd's pie this moment, I'm going to die. Um, and also frequent hunger. So, like, for example, most people can go for 3 to 4 hours and not want to have a meal, sometimes 5 or 6 if you're very busy or you're doing something. And I would be 2.5 hours out of breakfast, sometimes less. And my stomach is like growling, really, really growling. I had
Mhm.
other weird symptoms, like I was always very, very gassy. I always, any food, I mean, it was hilarious, but not really. But Gabe, my husband, used to joke around that everything I put in my mouth made me gassy. I mean, everything from like a glass of water to,
A glass of water?
yeah, I mean, it was just a joke. And anyway, we'll talk about that some other time. So,
We'll have a whole episode on gas.
yeah, right. That'll be a real showstopper, by the way. Um, so anyway, for people who don't know, type 2 diabetes is an impairment in the way the body regulates and uses sugar as fuel, sugar or glucose as fuel. So, and it's different from type 1 diabetes, which is type 1 diabetes is a genetic condition
Mhm.
that um, that your immune system is attacking and destroying the insulin producing cells in your pancreas. So they're very different. And type 2 diabetes is mainly lifestyle related and develops over time, which is why, for example, I was in my mid 40s when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Um, so they prescribed me medication. It was around the same time that I started taking a blood pressure medication and a cholesterol medication. Because again, all of these things go hand in hand. If you usually when you have type 2 diabetes, you also struggle with cholesterol because a lot of people whose bodies don't, the sugar's not controlled properly, sugar is a leading cause in your cholesterol going up. So, and then also a lot of times with type 2 diabetes, people carry extra weight. And so that causes your blood pressure to go up. So they're all very closely linked together. So I
Mm-hmm.
found myself all within a very short period of time having to adjust to and take these medications and then have to go in for follow ups. And when I would go in, the first thing they do is make you pee in a cup because they want to dip something in there to see, if you are spilling sugar over into your urine. And then routine blood tests, etc. And so it got to the place where I was taking the most common medication they give people is metformin. And I was taking two metformin in the morning and two metformin in the evening. And there were some other things that happened as the result of taking the metformin. I was already dealing with early menopause symptoms, and the metformin just pushed me right over into like, you're done. Like,
Mm.
yeah, you're done with everything. There's not going to be any more hot flashes. There's not going to be any more, but also, um, it was just, it was very, it was not a medication that I felt like my body responded well to.
Mm.
When I was diagnosed, I went on a very extreme and very restrictive lifestyle changing diet where I eliminated all processed sugars, most processed and unrefined flours, most, white rices and white breads and potatoes and all those things, all the starchy foods, tortillas, chips, blah, blah, blah. I eliminated processed foods. I tried to, as much as possible, to become vegan. I stopped, um, yeah, I just, I focused on like eating whole foods, a lot of kale, a lot of like vitamin dense, nutrient dense green leafy vegetables like spinach and lettuces and lots of salads, lots of legumes like, lentils, peanuts, lots of beans and pulses. Um, but those, and I started to walk 2+ hours a day.
Wow.
So, right. And that was in a time period where I wasn't working full time. So I was able to do that. But because of the medication I was taking, I would find that I was exhausted at the end of the day, like very exhausted. And I did lose 25 pounds. And
Was it quick, like in a short amount of time?
well, I mean, I would say it took me maybe 6 months.
Okay.
But one, I couldn't eat at anybody's house or at a restaurant unless it was like a Whole Foods restaurant. Um, I didn't want to become one of those people that carried my food around with me in like a Ziploc container, you
Yeah.
know. And again, because I struggled with, controlling weight and food and all these different things, I I just, it was like an all or nothing thing. And I just got tired of preparing because, I would buy the grains and I would steam them and I would boil them and I would not air fry them. I would pressure cook them. And then I'd have to come up with different recipes, you know, to eat things. And then I would try like the raw garbanzo burger that I can say honestly that no one in the family would touch. Um, so, it was really hard to manage.
Yeah.
Um,
It
so
is. Yeah. When people are vegan, and it's really hard when you go over, like you said, to someone's house or you're going out with a group of people. who
Yes.
might not really be willing to compromise and go somewhere where they have vegan food. Anyway, yeah, it's hard.
It was not sustainable for me,
Exactly. Yeah.
for my
For
lifestyle, for having two children. My kids were still younger at this time. Also, what I didn't want to do and what I constantly feared was that they would see this as like, oh, it's okay to display this very like aggressive and like very black and white behavior when it comes to food. Like, oh, okay, you don't like the way things are turning out. You're just going to like, we're just going to eliminate 85% of the food in the pantry and you're going to eat from these two little boxes right here. And
yeah.
that was, yeah, in hindsight, that was the thing that like really, really, you know, made me realize that it wasn't a good headspace for me to. The other thing is I was constantly this is the other thing, constantly thinking about, okay, what am I going? Because I get tired of eating the same kale salad because it was
Hmm.
like, after a while, it's like, okay, what am I going to eat that's different than what I ate? Because I ate the greens and the lentils yesterday. And also, I'm still taking the same medication. They haven't reduced any of the medications that I'm taking. My blood sugar did improve. My A1C, they call it your A1C. When I went in, it did improve a little bit, but it didn't
Bless you.
improve. It didn't improve substantially. And that was the thing that was so frustrating, was to do all this work and then have them say, great, it came down from 9.2 to 7.9. And the range you need to be in is under 5.
Mm,
So it just felt so counterproductive and
yeah.
so frustrating. So, approximately 2 years ago, it was during the pandemic, I went to the doctor and I go to a teaching clinic. So, I always see these residents who are fresh out of medical school. And the doctor came in and said, it looks like you're not really responding to the metformin. Your blood pressure's still high. Your cholesterol's not improving. Um, we have a new medication called Ozempic, and people are using it in the treatment of type 2 diabetes, and they're seeing some really good results. It controls and regulates your A1C, it will bring it down. And she said, would you be interested in trying it? If it worked, we could even take you off of the metformin. And it's only once a week, it's an injectable medication. And then you wouldn't have to remember to take pills. Because that's the other thing is, I could remember all the morning pills, but having to remember evening pills
Hmm.
wasn't always easy. I would sometimes forget. And those are the mornings that I'd get up to take my blood sugar and be haywire because, I forgot.
Yep. I
And
know.
I'm at this point, I mean, this is what, 6 years into taking the metformin and dealing with the side effects, etc., still waking up at night for frequent urination, etc. I said, sure. She said literally in passing, but it was so insignificant, it didn't stand out to me until later. She said some patients that are taking this are seeing some mild weight loss. But I'm happy in hindsight that she presented it that way because I just wanted to take something to help me with my diabetes symptoms. I didn't want to, if she had led with this is a, you know, weight loss. And the reason I just, I just know the way my brain works. Um, and, uh, you know, and how my brain works with regards to weight loss. And, there is a psychology there. I was out of the 4 kids in my family, I was the chubby kid. So at the age of 12, I was put on a diet for the first time, and I was woken up to go run laps around a track in the morning, and I was food shamed, and my plate was taken away, and there were all kinds of things that were done. And what, um, I don't know where that came from, um, and why, because I don't understand that. But for whatever reason, I think maybe, my mother was fearful that society would look down on me if I didn't look like the other kids in the house, or maybe because she had been teased for being a fat kid. I think she was worried that I would, be bullied too much or something. But anyway, all that did growing up was just set a real like foundation for disordered eating. And
Hmm.
I remember
It's
having to,
that makes me so sad.
yeah, I mean, I think she thought she was helping me like focus on, you know, on getting to a healthy weight, but unfortunately at that age, all it did was make me feel like, well, I can't eat food in front of anybody. And so I would wait until I could find quiet times where nobody knew what I was doing so that I would eat. And then I would binge eat because I didn't know if I would be able to eat a normal meal.
Mhm.
And I remember having to go to weigh-ins with middle-aged women. Um, so I was really glad that the doctor really downplayed any weight loss. So I
Yeah,
said
she wasn't like, and you're gonna lose a bunch of weight on this.
right.
Yeah.
You just
Hmm.
some people are having some results with losing some weight. And she didn't even make it like, oh, this is great. People are really, knocking
Yeah.
the into the park with this.
She didn't play it up. Yeah.
Right. And at this point, I mean, I am walking. At this point, I'm sitting at around 198 to 201 pounds. I'm walking at least an hour a day. I feel like we aren't eating out a lot. Again, it's the pandemic, so nobody's eating out a lot. Everybody's eating at home. I was so sick of cooking dinner. I wanted to strangle dinner. And um so I started taking it in March or April of 2020. And it's got a super tiny little needle. It comes in a pen. Each pen is a 4 week, so 1 month dosage. You give yourself the shot every once a week at the same date, same time. So like I give
Once a
myself
week or once a month?
a week on Monday morning. The
Okay.
pin lasts a month, so after a month you throw it away. Teeny tiny needle in the front that's maybe uh 2 2 centimeters. It's really tiny. It's like a half an inch. And so you barely feel it, and you can either do it in your thigh, you can do it in your upper arm, or you can do it in your abdomen.
So
And
it's a little pin that stays in you? It's not an injection.
it's an injection. You
I'm
stick the needle
confused.
in, you press a
Uh-huh.
little damper on the end that dispenses the medication, which I can't feel going in. You hold it for about 6 seconds and then you pull it out and you're done. It doesn't bleed because it's such a tiny needle, and
Mm.
you almost can't feel it because it's such a tiny needle. Um, and I chose to do it in my abdomen, but some people have said that you have less response to the medication if you do it in your upper thigh or in the fleshy upper part of your arm. Um, and so there were symptoms within probably 2 weeks of starting the medication. I started at 0.25 milligrams. I started noticing that um, I started noticing that I felt a little nauseous
Mm.
when I would be around food. And so that,
No.
right. So it felt to me like morning sickness. So when I was pregnant with my first baby, um, that I carried a full term, I had morning sickness, but I never really threw up. I just had like this ongoing nausea for about 4 months where I felt sometimes very hungry, but the smell of food would sometimes make me really off of food. So, like, one time I said to Gabe, I really want pizza. I couldn't stop thinking about pizza all day. I thought about pizza. So
No.
he got the pizza and he went and got the kind, the Papa Murphy's kind. Remember in Oregon, we had Papa Murphy's,
Uh-huh.
baked it, and it was exactly the
Yeah.
kind I wanted with black olives. And I literally took one look at the pizza because the colossal mistake was the baking it because I could smell it being baked.
Yeah.
Literally looking at the pizza, I wanted to like vomit on the pizza. And so I went
Oh my
upstairs.
God.
I remember going upstairs and crying because I couldn't eat the pizza. And he was like
Oh,
left scratching his head, going, oh God, what have I done? You know?
oh man,
So,
that sounds awful.
yeah, so I remember I felt nauseous. So I was kind of turned off by the majority of all the food in the house.
Hmm.
And when we would get food, I noticed I could no longer eat like greasy food or fried foods or a lot of starchy foods, and I couldn't eat sweet foods. And that lasted about 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
So it wasn't forever. But then
Thank God, because that sounds horrible. The nausea part. I don't like being nauseous. I mean, nobody would, but
what happened in 8 weeks was because I couldn't eat everything and not everything settled well in my stomach, it instantly reduced the portion size that I was consuming.
mhm.
So when it got to where I found foods that I could eat after the 8 weeks, while I still had a little bit of nausea, because at that point, about 3 months in, they increased my dosage to zero point 0.5 milligrams. So it was double dosage. I went through a little bit more of that, but my portion size had decreased substantially. So we would go get like, and we went on a vacation shortly. So I started in March or April. We went on vacation in July. We would sit down and order some food. I would take 3 to 4 bites and push the food away and say, I can't eat anymore. And it
Would
was a
you get would you get sick?
It was
Like,
no,
would
it was a combination of I felt like I had eaten 6 bowls of food and
mm,
also I can't look at this food anymore. Like there was something weird about so nothing so it turned into Gabe would say, what do you want to have for dinner? And I'd say, I don't really care anymore because it
oh,
turned into kind of this feeling like all foods are going to make me feel this way. So you guys pick. Because I'm only
yeah.
going to eat 3 or 4 bites of whatever you order anyway.
Well, it's a good I guess on the silver lining is that you're saving money. No, that sounds awful
Exactly.
though. Oh my God.
Exactly. So I started being able to order things, and I still do, off of the appetizer menu,
Mhm.
or I'll order something uh that's like I love restaurants that like let you order a half a sandwich and a cup of soup now. And
Mhm.
now I can't make fun of people who are over 75 who order that for lunch because that is literally the perfect size lunch.
Mhm.
I'll probably only eat half of the half a sandwich. And then
Wow.
he likes it because then he gets the rest of the sandwich.
Yeah, and
But
Gabe can eat a lot.
for a while there, he was like, I can't eat 2 meals.
So stop ordering. You could just take a bite of everyone in your family's food and be fine, I think. Sounds
That's
like.
great. So, so yeah, after, let's see, after a year, they increased my dosage to 1 milligram. And after a year and a half, they increased my dosage to 2 milligrams because they wanted to see if the results I had had in the first year were mirrored if they increased me to an extreme, like a higher dosage. But I will say that the side effects that I experienced going up to 2 milligrams were so extreme that I requested to go back down to 1. So I'm taking 1 milligram once a week now. And those symptoms were hip hip and joint pain and aching, where I would lay down in bed and my entire, like, the side you're laying on starts to ache and you spot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just aching so much so that, like, just walking outside for a half hour, 45 minutes would make me sore for 3 days.
Mm.
So I didn't enjoy that. The cost of Ozempic is with insurance. So when I started taking it, my husband had a different job. So the insurance paid for everything except for $75 a pin, which, if you think about it, is pretty pricey for somebody to pay $75 a month for medication.
Yeah.
But he switched jobs, and the job he has now, I only pay $25 a pin.
Isn't
But
that incredible? Don't
yeah,
even get started on the insurance companies. Okay, go ahead.
so I looked it up. I believe without insurance, so you can only be prescribed Ozempic if you have type 2 diabetes, because this was a medication that in the United States is only being prescribed for type 2 diabetics. It's my understanding in Canada, they are prescribing this for weight loss for people who have problems with obesity.
Mm.
So, but I pay $25 a pin. But if you don't have insurance, it's my understanding they can cost anywhere from $1,300 to $1,800 a pin.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So that explains why only people like celebrities, because I have since heard that there are a lot of celebrities who are wealthy who are getting their doctors to prescribe this for weight loss if they're going to an award show, or if they need to lose some weight because they're going on tour, or they're going to be doing a public performance or something like that, and they put on some weight during the pandemic. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems to me like if there's a medication out there that causes you to lose weight without doing anything, then why wouldn't people jump on that?
Yeah. So now, is that illegal? If
Mm,
you don't have diabetes, one or
no, I
two?
don't think it's illegal. And also, just so you know, there is this medication is called Ozempic or Wegovy. That's the other name that it's under. But
Okay.
there's a third one called Ribelsis, but that is an oral medication that's the same as Ozempic.
Is
But
there a difference in
there is,
the effectiveness or anything?
they're supposed to be the same, but I will say that there is a medication, and I think it's called Trulicity or something like that.
That sounds
And I
familiar.
believe that one is a weight loss medication, primarily weight loss. So I think if someone has, and this is the other thing, so uh, there are people who have had gastric sleeve and have had gastric bypass surgery. They've lost extreme amounts of weight because they struggle with obesity. And then they have put the weight back on again, which is horrible for your body, and putting your body through all that stress, because they've discovered that those surgeries, while they might be temporary fixes to a problem, they don't solve the psychological component that causes the person to overeat, or causes the person the emotional struggles and the psychological issues that are causing the obesity. Because I believe that obesity is a disease. It's not just somebody ate too many ho-hos.
Mhm.
We're
Right.
talking also, there's, like, morbid obesity where people, like, can't leave their homes and things like that, because they have to be airlifted out because they can't walk out the front door. And that's also not a condition that somebody sits in their house. Oh, I hope when I get older I have morbid obesity and I have to be airlifted out of my house, because there's got to be usually there's a history of childhood trauma, and there's markers that indicate there's something else going on here.
Mhm.
So I know in Canada, because there's a YouTube group that I found, that a woman leads in Canada, and she's fantastic. Her name is Patsy. And for those of you, if anybody wants that YouTube information, I'd be happy to link it on this podcast. But she does live streams, and then she also does recordings where she is chronicling her life as she is living with taking Ozempic. And in Canada, she talks very openly about having an obesity doctor that is working with her. And these are doctors that are trained to work with people who have obesity and who have been through these stomach stapling surgeries and have gone back to gain large amounts of weight afterwards. So those, and they've discovered that these types of drugs like Ozempic work better in the long run, because if you take it for 2 or 3 or 4 years and you retrain your brain and you retrain your body to, eat smaller portions and to not look for food for comfort and to not, eat and not have disordered eating and to learn healthy parameters, as with regards to what's in food and, what fuels your body. Then when you stop taking the Ozempic, you're less likely to balloon back up to the weight that you were before, which, is obviously not the goal for the doctor or for the patient.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, are there certain foods that I need to avoid when I'm taking Ozempic? The main thing that they do caution you to avoid is alcohol, but I don't drink, so that's not a problem. But I don't avoid any foods. But here's the weird thing about Ozempic. I don't know who developed this medication. I don't know if they did studies about this when they developed it, but I no longer crave sweets or junk food.
Dang. Give
I
me some
know.
of that.
I thought it was a fluke too, but I've been taking it for 2 years and I no longer, like, if one of the kids has fries, from like a fast food restaurant, I can eat a few fries, but I'm really fine with just tasting a few fries. And
Wow.
I
That's
don't know if it's
great.
because they're fried. I don't know if it's because everything does, like, and trust me, food tastes good. It's just, it doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, so just a little bit, you're satisfied.
Yes, and I don't have cravings anymore. That's the other thing that's so weird is I don't, and I definitely don't crave overly sweet things to the point where I actually don't even have to taste it.
Really? That's
Where-
interesting.
Yeah, whereas before, you know, sometimes just having one would trigger me to have like all of them,
Right.
like
That's
opening
that's
Girl
me.
Scout cookies, having one Girl Scout cookie would push me into wanting to have the whole sleeve. I couldn't
Yeah.
just eat one cookie. And again, I know that's emotion, that's psychological. It's not a hunger response. I know it's not, it's, something else, but it's very strange why I don't have those cravings. Um, but the other things that are positive is my there are the medical benefits. I don't have to take all those pills. They took me off my metformin.
Mhm.
I actually went to the doctor 6 months ago and was told that I no longer have type 2 diabetes, which is
That
very,
is
very,
incredible.
very exciting.
That's wonderful.
I know, which makes me think that maybe at some point I'll even be able to stop taking the cholesterol medication. I
Mhm.
don't think I'll ever stop taking the blood pressure medication because of like hereditarily, like, getting this as a, family trait, but
Mhm.
I'm fine with that. Also, I no longer wake up at night to urinate. I can sleep through the whole night, even if I drink a glass of water before I go to bed. And for all of those women out there in the mid 50s who've had a couple kids, let me tell you, those muscles, they ain't what they used to be. So it's and even women out there who haven't had a couple of kids, those muscles ain't what they used
That
to be.
that
So
that would be me.
I experience less thirst. I don't get hungry. And so this is the other thing is I rarely get hungry.
Okay, so if I go to my doctor and I say, "Hey, I want to, get on Ozempic," well, she can give it to me, but the insurance might not cover it because I don't have a medical need for it. Do you know if that's how it works? Like the celebrities can pay for it out of pocket, right? Because they're
You would have to
rich.
have type 2 diabetes to be diagnosed with Ozempic.
So these celebrities are just paying, they're not going through insurance, so they can just be given it.
Well, I think they're getting the one that's called Trulicity, which is actually a weight loss medication.
Uh,
So I think you could ask your doctor for that one, but I believe that it's not covered by most insurance.
yeah, because they're not gonna. Well, I guess if you're morbidly obese, they'll cover,
Right.
right? But
So let me just go over some of the negatives of the medication.
okay, so
Because
people aren't running out like me,
I'm not like,
calling
oh,
my
I need
doctor.
this medication tomorrow. Because there are with every medication, there's going to be benefits, but there's going to be negatives as well.
Right.
So the weirdest thing about this medication, full disclosure, if you're eating right now, you might want to put down the sandwich or pause the podcast because we're heading into some poopy territory.
Uh-oh.
I
We're
only
talking
eliminate,
about poop.
yeah, I only eliminate once a week. And
Unbelievable.
I know that sounds really crazy, but guess what? Our septic system is super happy. We will only have to pump the septic now once every 5 years instead of once every 4 years. But all seriousness, um, I was warned that this was a side effect. Um, I know every starting around day 5, I kind of get excited because I go, I'm probably going to have to go to the bathroom in the next couple of days. I'm like, yay. And
So
and
in between bowel movements, are you starting to feel gassy and bloated and constipated
no,
like anyone
no,
would off of that?
no, nope. It's amazing. I so for example, my week, my day is either Thursday or Friday. So this morning I got up, I was kind of excited. It's gonna be a big day. I stepped on the scales this morning, and because I've been sick, obviously I wasn't eating as much, but still I was still eating at least 3 times a day while I was sick. I, you know, I'm not any heavier or any lighter. Like my weight is pretty consistent now and I don't fluctuate in weight. Um, and there's no bloating. That's the thing that's so weird because you'd imagine that you'd have, I think I read somewhere that when they did the autopsy on Elvis, he had like 70 pounds of refuse impacted in
Yeah.
the. And I just had this picture that I was turning into Elvis, but the doctor explained it to me that the Ozempic also part of what it does is it slows down digestion. So that's why I don't get hungry as often
Oh,
or
yeah, that makes sense.
but also because my digestion is slowed down, everything is being broken down at a slower pace. So your body is using the food in a different way and it's using it like more slowly. So it it's totally fine. I feel healthy and I've had 2 colonoscopies since I started taking this medicine and everything's working like clockwork. It's just my clock goes slower than everyone else's clock.
That's incredible. I
Yeah.
sort of want to try this medication.
Um,
Wait,
the
but
other,
okay, what these are the side effects. So go ahead, because maybe
yeah.
you can convince me not to, to
So
run out tomorrow and get it.
another side effect is for some people, they experience this the whole time they take it is stomach cramping, abdominal cramping. For me, the abdominal cramping only happened in the first 3 to 6 months. And the
Ooh,
abdominal
that's a long
cramping,
time.
yeah,
That's a long
it wasn't every day and it wasn't always, but it was just I noticed it accompanied when I would eat foods that were fat rich or like greasy rich,
Are you
like
talking
fried.
doubled over cramping or just
I'm
like
talking about like uh I remember saying to Gabe that I would not be able to have a job and deal with what was happening right now with my stomach because I was
mm,
like hot hot sweating naked in the bathroom going, "What's up?"
oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but again, that was in the first 6 months and now it's done. So, like, if you have a job where you're like an emergency room doctor and you want to take this medicine, you should probably take a 6 month hiatus until you work that out. Because, like, you cannot be working on a patient and be like doubled over in pain.
Now, are you running to the bathroom because you have cramps? Are you having diarrhea?
No, because remember,
It's
you're
just the
only
cramp.
eliminating once a week. So it's just the cramping.
No, I thought maybe that stage, you're
Yeah,
cramping and
no,
diarrhea.
it's just cramping.
Okay. All right. Okay,
Um,
keep going because I'm not quite convinced yet that I don't
another
know. The
is
pooping once a week is pretty bad. Go ahead.
Yeah. Another negative is that I'm not hungry. And I know that sounds funny, but I have to remind myself sometimes that a healthy person eats 3 times a day.
Okay,
Even if
it's still
they
you're not convincing me because that sounds wonderful not to be hungry all the
even
time.
if, no, because if you think about it, it's not healthy to skip meals and to like starve yourself. I mean, for all those intermittent fasters out there, I mean, please prove me wrong, but basically skipping meals, I mean, even if you only eat like a banana or you eat a handful of almonds and you drink a cup of coffee or something, I'm like, you should eat something. Your body isn't designed to just go for hours and hours without eating.
I tried that intermittent fasting once. I lasted for one day because I cannot go. What is it? You have to go like
So like
11 hour. I don't know what
yeah,
it is.
it's
And
crazy.
then you can eat whatever you want, as much as you want after a certain time. And I was like, I can't do it. I get so hungry by like 9 or 10 in the morning. It's just like, yeah.
Well, and also as a type 2 diabetic, you have to eat small meals like all throughout, you know what I mean? Because your blood
Hmm.
sugar depends on it. Otherwise, you're going to be crashing and you're going to be like, having like
Yeah, yeah.
crazy reactions. So, the other thing is, one of the negatives is feeling full instantly. Sometimes I'll eat 2 bites and I feel full, and it's frustrating because I know that 2 bites is not a meal. So that's
Yeah.
kind of frustrating. That it doesn't frustrate me as much anymore because I know what a normal serving size for me is, and I know what like a store serving size. So like when you go to a restaurant like Cheesecake Factory, they bring you a serving size for like a family of 4 refugees. It's so ridiculous. So I just ask for a box the
Terrible.
minute I sit down, or I bring my own box and just put your food in there like from the beginning because it is overwhelming to me to sit down and be faced with like all this food. It's like how many people are going to be eating off this plate tonight because I can only eat this small, square in the corner. So
And does it affect like the social part of it for you? Because when you get together with friends, right? It's like, oh, let's go out and have lunch. Let's meet for brunch or whatever.
it doesn't. It just means that instead of eating a whole sandwich, I eat half a sandwich.
Yeah.
Or instead of eating a whole salad, I just eat all the good things on the top, like the hard boiled egg and the, crispy stuff and leave the rest.
Okay. Because I remember when I've had eating disorders too. And I know when I was restricting, I would, if there were four raviolis on the plate, I would eat one. And then, my friends are still enjoying their meal. It was kind of weird. I don't know. It was for me. But anyway, okay, so far you have not convinced me not to run out tomorrow and get it.
Right.
Go
Well,
ahead.
this one's not going to help either. The last thing that I put on the list of cons is eating whatever I want. So this is the
Oh my,
thing. Yeah,
these are the cons. Are you sure you didn't mix it up with the pros?
this is the thing that I don't like about the medication. If I wanted to make my entire diet Taco Bell burritos and French fries, I could. Because again, remember, this medicine restricts like how much I can eat, how my body processes food. So you could literally eat cheesecake, I guess, 3 times a day. I mean, you wouldn't be healthy, but it it does allow you to basically kind of ignore like the healthy messages like eating something green or some salad or whatever or cooking at home because the medicine does a lot for you. But because I like to cook and because I like to make meals and because I like to, try new recipes, that's not a problem for me because we don't really like this week because I was sick. We didn't eat out once. We didn't take out once. And so, whatever the family was able to scrounge together, they did. And there was a couple of meals that I had made previously that they could, warm back up.
Mhm.
So I don't really worry too much about that. But also, the other thing is my hesitation with buying food that's prepared, like fast food or restaurant food, is it's literally the size. It's so enormous. It's like, I feel like sometimes it's just daunting how much food is brought.
Mm.
So anyway, um,
Well,
uh,
I don't know because I can't eat a small portion. I'm just hungry again very soon. So yeah, I know what you're saying. You can eat whatever you want, but you have to consciously eat like a well-rounded type of
right,
diet because you're not gaining weight, but inside you're not healthy.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. Um, but the good news is I no longer have type 2
that
diabetes.
is yay.
Yeah, I was
Good.
taking off the metformin. My blood sugar is under 5, and I'm sorry, my A1C is under 5, and I think it was 4.7 at the last checkup, and or 4.2, and my blood pressure has gone down significantly. And let me just say, my blood pressure has never been like in the low one, like in the 130s, and the first number, and the second number has never been lower than 90. And
Mm.
when I go and it's like 130 over 80 or 132 over 72, like it's so nice to see those numbers because I've always been like, 160 over 110, and
Oh
then they're like,
gosh, yeah.
whoa, girl, whoa. What happened between the parking lot and like I'm like, well, I just always, I'm afraid of the doctor. So anyway, so what's next and how long will I take this? And will I start to gain when I stop? So I did some research. I don't know how long I'll take this. The doctor hasn't given me an end date. I did some research and I did find that across the board, it looks like everybody who stops taking this medication uh, gains weight.
Mhm.
So I don't know if this is a long-term solution for the doctor and for me. I don't know if this is something that I'll take like for the rest of my life. I don't know. Will I have to have my teeth? When you break your jaw, they wire your teeth together and you can only drink like milkshakes and coffee and smoothies. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's the next stop for me, if there's like a diet that involves that. I
I
do
hope
know that
not.
I would never consider weight loss surgery because of how little
The
like
success
data,
is.
how little the slow the success rate is.
Mhm.
But of course, for people who are interested, I said when I started this, I weighed 2 years ago between 198 and 201. I fluctuated there. And I stepped on the scale this morning and I weighed, but again, this was after being sick for a few days, but I consistently weigh in at 165.
Wow.
And I did lose the majority of the weight in the first year. I will say that in the last year, so I lost down to about 175 in the first year. So the
Wow.
majority of the weight came off then. In the second year, I went from 175 to 165. So I am still losing weight, albeit it has slowed down significantly. Instead of losing 10 pounds, in 3 months, I am now losing 2 pounds probably every 3 to 4 months. So
Sorry, you can hear Callie barking in the back. Well, you don't want to be losing large amount. You don't want to continually be losing 10
exactly.
pounds every 2 months. That would just be.
And I do have a healthy like goal weight that I want to get. That I feel like, I don't want to be emaciated. I don't want to be like skeletal, but I have a healthy weight that I feel like, would be comfortable. And I'm fine if I'm within that ballpark. I feel like 150 pounds is very comfortable for my frame and for my height.
Mhm.
And if I'm 155, I'm fine with that as well. So I'm about 10 pounds away from my goal. So I feel really, really good because, when I was taking the metformin and when I was, struggling with all of the diabetes symptoms, I literally had to practically starve myself and exercise for hours just to lose some weight. So I feel like this has been, and again, I don't just lay around the house and eat 3 French fries. I mean, I still get out and stay active and all that, but just psychologically. The other thing is I don't weigh myself, anymore. So I weighed myself this morning because I knew I was going to be talking about this. But before this morning, the last time I weighed myself was probably 3 months ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So you're not obsessed with weighing
I no
yourself.
longer weigh myself obsessively because
Mm-hmm.
that's also not healthy. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, enough time will go by and I'll realize the battery doesn't work anymore. And I'll have to wait and go buy a battery for the scale. So, whereas previously, because there was so much focus on weight and A1C and medication and exercise and eating and this and that, I would weigh myself before I went to the doctor. And then I would like try to do like a vegetable juice fast, for 3 to 5
Oh,
days.
God.
I just didn't want to have to hear it again. And, there's this assumption that, like, everybody in the doctor with their weight problems got to be as dumb as a pile of rocks. And, do you want to talk to a nutritionist? No, I don't want to talk to a nutritionist. I know how to read the little labels on the back that tells you, what I'm not supposed to eat. I know that the Doritos is not supposed to be lunch, but, I just had to eat Doritos today. So,
No, it's, you know what they say is that women, and I myself included, when I heard this, I was like, yeah, that's me, and that's terrible. I am so sorry, but I think Callie's saying it's time. Probably I need to wrap it up. But that women don't, the reason women delay going to the doctor and don't want to go is because they don't want to be weighed.
it's true.
And I'm telling you, it's an anxiety. I at the time the first time I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, or found out I had high blood pressure. They weigh, the very first thing is they weigh you. So I put my purse down, of course, because that weighs 3 pounds, and I'm like, can I take like as many things off as I can?
Yeah.
And then they take your blood pressure. So I was telling, and then it was high, so I had to take medication.
I
I told the doctor, I was like, you can't weigh people first. Of course, my blood pressure is high.
Yeah, I told the doctor, I cracked a joke. I said, do you think maybe you guys could like set up a private room for all the ladies who want to strip naked and hold their breath and stand on one foot? Because I go, that's how I weigh myself at home. I was like, I hold my breath and then one foot and I balance.
Yeah.
So, and then I wait until the number like adjusts down to the lower number. And then I get off and I do it again and I do it again and I do it again. And sometimes the battery's bad. It'll like skew in a weird direction. And if it skews down, I'm like, yeah, that's right.
I'm taking the best out of 3. Oh my God. It's terrible.
I'm in statistician.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that Callie's.
That's all right. Callie's just telling us it's time to wrap it up.
Okay. I can't leave to go get her because never mind. I'm attached to the
computer. Because you're attached to the breath pump. All right. Well, on that note.
Oh my gosh.
You guys all learned something exciting.
I'm so glad. Congratulations on beating diabetes too.
Thank you. That was the number one goal.
Yeah.
The weight loss was just secondary.
Yeah. We got to celebrate that.
Right. So for our listeners out there, celebrate by subscribing and following us on wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you want, you can become a paid monthly subscriber, but it's not obligatory. And we will have tons of exciting and fun content for you, like this podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yep. And have a great week.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.